I'm from Bangalore, which is a large city in India. I was born west of Bangalore on the coast in a town called Udupi. I was born there because my grandfather was a pastor of the Basel Mission Church, which later merged into the Church of South India. The Basel Mission Church was founded in that part of India by missionaries from the Basel Mission. The missionaries who came from South Germany as Basel Mission missionaries were Lutheran. The missionaries who came from North Switzerland as missionaries of the Basel Mission were Reformed. So from very early days, the Basel Mission was, in that sense, a blended mission, an ecumenical mission, drawing on two great traditions of the Reformation, the Lutheran tradition and the Reformed tradition. So my grandfather was pastor. Actually, by that point, he had become what's called the house father in an orphanage in Udupi. So when the time came for me to be born, my mother returned to her parents, and I was born in the Basel Mission Hospital in Udupi. My father at that time was teaching at the Bishop Cotton Boys' School, which is an old Anglican school founded by the Anglicans in 1865, meant primarily at that time for European and what they called Eurasian or mixed students from a mixed racial background. But by the time my father taught there, they had started opening the doors to Indian teachers, and many Indian students had joined. My father began his career as a school teacher, teaching English, but he had a parallel career. He was a trained organist, having been trained at the Academy of Music in Basel in Switzerland, and for 43 years he was the organist of St. Mark's Cathedral in Bangalore. This is all part of my faith formation story. Because my father was the organist, I was very regularly at the cathedral, not just listening to him practice, but eased very easily through the Sunday school, where my mother was both a teacher and for some time the superintendent of the Sunday school, joined the choir in the 4th grade, went on to be altar boy, crucifer, and from there flowed seamlessly into seminary. But to take a step back, my father served as a school teacher for 10 years before he joined the Regional Institute of English, where he was first a lecturer and then professor of English. The cathedral was founded in 1808 as an Anglican cathedral, and in 1947, when the Church of South India was formed through a merger of the Anglican churches in South India, the Wesley Methodist churches, Congregational churches, and Presbyterian churches, this became the cathedral of the diocese and has remained the cathedral of the diocese. The Church of South India, which was formed in September 1947, was hailed at that time as the greatest coming together of people from a variety of traditions since Pentecost. With some exaggeration, but with some truth, people from a variety of traditions had had long conversations, and ultimately the Church of South India was a pioneering model of church unity. The so-called pure Lutheran churches remained outside for various reasons. There were churches, the Danish Lutherans, the Swedish Lutherans, American, Canadian, all kinds of Lutheran churches. They have formed an umbrella called the United Evangelical Lutheran Churches in India. The Basel Mission, as I said, incorporated within it the Lutheran and Reformed elements. So in that sense, the Lutheran element is part and parcel of the Church of South India. I've been lucky in that I'm an ordained minister of the Church of South India, and I've served as pastor, at first as a deacon, and then as a presbyter. Even after I joined the seminary, I continue to be associated with the pastoral ministry of my diocese and my church as the associate presbyter. That's the term we use in the Church of South India. We have deacons, presbyters, and bishops, and I served as an associate presbyter in smaller churches right through my teaching career in India. In fact, my wife told me, you seem to be doing more as an honorary part-time associate pastor as some of the full-time people do, but I don't want to cast any aspersions on my colleagues.
Sure.
But then in terms of the traditions and backgrounds, I was lucky in the sense I come from, that's the family background, the Basel Mission tradition, Reformed Lutheran, grew up in a church, the cathedral, which embodied the Anglican tradition. The first church I served, a rural pastorate consisting of 5 village congregations outside Bangalore, 50 miles away from Bangalore, came from the former London Missionary Society, which is a congregational mission body. So I served rural congregations with a congregational background. My second posting as presbyter assisting was at the Hudson Memorial Church, which is a former Wesley Methodist church. After I joined the seminary, the college, United Theological College, to teach, I was associate presbyter of St. Andrew's Church, which at one point was the St. Andrew's Kirk, Scottish Presbyterian. So I have had the privilege of incorporating either in me personally or in my ministry the range of church traditions. Presbyterian, Wesley Methodist, Congregationalist, Anglican, Lutheran, Reformed, all together, either directly or indirectly. And even after 65 years of the merger of these various churches into the Church of South India, I can see, as someone who looks at the way in which the liturgy is shaped by the local congregation, I can make out the background. I can see, even though many people don't, that these churches have this or that heritage. Even in a united church, certain distinctive patterns of their previous ways of worshipping and ways of, let's say, preaching and relating elements of the liturgy one to the other are quite distinctive. And I enjoy deciphering these things. My mother, who became a teacher at this school, Bishop Cotton Boys' School, where my father had started off and where I later studied, remained a teacher in that school for her entire career. She taught history, English, scripture. And of course, she was called upon to teach other things. But she was one of 5 children of my grandparents. My grandfather, as I said, was a pastor, and at that time his wife, my grandmother, was expected to do everything. Unpaid, but very often far more work than even my grandfather did. She was supposed to be the person who would care for the people in the congregation. She was the to-go person in times of illness or for counseling or for family issues. She also was expected to do formal and informal teaching in the church. This is the old paradigm of the pastor's spouse being integrally part of the pastor's ministry. Their 5 children, 2 of them became pastors and theologians. My mother's older brother and my mother's younger brother. Both served as pastors in India. Both did their doctorates at the Hartford Seminary Foundation in Connecticut. So even though my grandfather died when I was just 4 or 5 months old, the stories, the recollections of who he was, and the fact that my grandmother then came to live with us and was with us till I was almost 23. She saw me going to seminary. My grandfather was always this elusive presence, in the sense I was born a couple of months before he died. My baptism there, of course, a story about my mother coming and finding me in my crib, but my face covered with what seemed to be broken rice, and it turned out that my grandfather had eaten puffed rice and had kissed me and had left behind all kinds of things on my face. But then we went back to Bangalore, and the next thing we knew was he died. So that has been the elusive presence. But it was my grandmother who lived with us, who kept the memories alive, the stories. The first time I heard the stories of the Reformation, including Luther at Worms, was through my grandmother dramatizing some of these things. She had read a lot, both in our mother tongue, Kannada, and in English, and told me things about our family, about the church, about the history of the church. So I would place her as the primary faith formation element in my life. Stories about the Bible, all that comes to me from my grandmother. Part of this faith formation was the fact that my uncles were not only pastors but academicians. And at a very young age, I was fascinated by their books. My older uncle went on to have a very distinguished career, ecumenical career, in the World Council of Churches. And when I teach my students here, I make a joke and tell them I must have been one of the very few high school students in the world who started reading material from the worldwide ecumenical movement even as a teenager. And my other younger uncle came back to India after his doctorate and brought along with him a huge range and collection of books. And I was still in high school when he did that, and I was fascinated by this world of scholarship out there. So both these things blended in my faith journey. The pastoral element embodied by my grandfather and grandmother, and my own growth in the church, going through all the various stages and being part of who I am. And that went very well along with a broader vision of what academic work can mean for the ministries of the church. I didn't try to draw a line between pastoral and academic work. I didn't even think about it, because they both sort of melded and knit into one another. So that was what I took with me to the seminary. Rootedness, groundedness in the regular worship, congregational life of the church, and an awareness that there was a world out there, a world of scholarship.